Gracious God, we wait for you. We watch for you. Come quickly. Amen. This is a true story. One time, a couple of years ago, I walked to Bethlehem. And not the one in Pennsylvania, or not the road that intersects with Staples Mill, the original Bethlehem. I was staying by myself just south of Jerusalem, and it was a Saturday morning, and I had made no plans for the day. Because it was the Jewish Sabbath day, there were no buses running, so I had to go somewhere, but somewhere within walking distance. I checked my map and looked for an interesting destination I could walk to. And as it turns out, the city center of Bethlehem was less than 10 kilometers from where I was staying. Easy enough. I packed my backpack with water and I set out. I followed the main road and I was excited and proud of myself for having such an adventurous spirit. In hindsight, this may not have been the best decision I've ever made. And so now I give you my official caveat. If you ever find yourself in the Holy Land, and I hope you do, I do not recommend that you do what I did. I was a young, unaccompanied Western woman entering the Palestinian territories on foot. Not smart. But it was still one of the best spontaneous decisions I have ever made. And I will tell you about it. As I was walking, I started to get the sense that maybe people do not regularly walk to Bethlehem these days. For one thing, there are no sidewalks, so in order to follow the road and not get hit by the cars and the tour buses going by, you have to walk through a beautiful olive grove that dominates the landscape. It dawned on me as I was walking through these olive trees that there were a lot of tour buses going past me, and that maybe normal foreigners who want to see Bethlehem do so by signing up for a guided tour. Whatever. As I walked closer, I began to see the massive and imposing separation wall that Israel has built around the section of the Palestinian territories known as the West Bank. In order to get past that wall and into Bethlehem, I would need to make it through a checkpoint. I was scared, I was nervous, I hoped I had all the documentation needed to get through the checkpoint on foot. Again, this is not the way normal tourists go. I will admit that I was very scared. I looked up at the watchtowers high above me, and there were machine guns pointed out, right down. Yet, for me, getting through the checkpoint was relatively easy. Possessing an American passport and looking relatively innocent seems to be the golden ticket that you need to bypass the lines and the searches and the questioning. So after I crossed the border into the West Bank, I found myself at the foot of a very large hill. And all of the sights that Christian pilgrims want to see are at the top of the hill. I was already a little tired from the journey, but I had no other option. I was on foot, so I started walking up the hill. Just a little ways up, I heard a voice, "Miss, Miss." I looked over to my left, and there was a Palestinian man with very kind eyes, and he was beckoning to me, "Miss." He said, "Miss, come into my shop and have a cup of tea." Again, don't do what I did. My face must have given away my doubt and my fear and my skepticism. He said to me, "It's okay, you look tired. Come into my shop and have some tea. You don't have to buy anything, just come visit with me and rest for a while." At that moment, all of my misgivings just vanished. And I swear to you, I felt this deep sense of peace, and I heard a voice saying to me, "It's okay, trust him." So I trusted him. I went into his shop. I met his family, and I proceeded to have the most amazing mint tea of my life. His name was Majdi, and his family has run this little knick-knack shop in Bethlehem at the bottom of the hill forever. He ended up taking me himself to the Church of the Nativity and all the other attractions for tourists in Bethlehem. We had a wonderful time. And before he dropped me back off at the checkpoint to begin my walk home, we stopped at his favorite falafel stand and he bought me lunch. As I was leaving, I tried to offer him a tip, but he refused it. I asked him why he showed such kindness to a complete stranger. He said, "I want people to know that Palestinians and Americans can be friends. I hope you will tell people that we are nice and welcoming." And I promised I would. So I walked back through those olive groves, and at one point on my way home, I witnessed a backup of all those tour buses going in and out of Bethlehem. They were stopped in a long line, and at first I couldn't tell what had caused the traffic jam. But I walked up a little further, and I saw the culprits. Sheep. I'm not kidding. Some young boys were herding a flock of sheep, hundreds of sheep, right across the main road out of Bethlehem. It was too perfect. I pinched myself and snapped a few photos and kept walking. Now, that was a long story with a short point, and the point is this. The walk to Bethlehem is unpredictable. And I didn't even start in Nazareth, where Mary and Joseph started. That would be 80 miles. I didn't walk that far. But regardless of who you are or where you start, the walk to Bethlehem is unpredictable. And there will be scary things. And there will be beautiful things. And there will be unexpected hospitality. And there will be sheep. Just wait till our Christmas pageant in 2 weeks. There will be sheep, and they will be cute. But today we begin a new season and a new church year. This is the first Sunday of the season of Advent. And we, the church, we're beginning our figurative walk to Bethlehem. As a faith community, we will spend the next 24 days preparing for the arrival of Jesus, for his birth in a messy barn, and for his return to a messy world. In the forums today and for the next few weeks, we will learn about a movement called the Advent Conspiracy, and there are many other ways to enter into this season of Advent, and you can see some of those on the cover of your Sunday chimes. But the journey toward Bethlehem begins today. And today we begin with a few of the scarier bits. We're not quite to the beautiful bits yet. We're scary bits. These are about the future. We know there will be beauty and unexpected hospitality and adorable sheep later on, but today we are confronted with some of the uncertainty, the unpredictability of the future, of God's future, of our future. The word Advent means the coming, and as Christians, we believe God is what is coming. Coming to be human, coming to redeem humanity. As people of faith, God informs and influences our future, but it is still uncertain. The gospel lesson for today from Matthew demonstrates this uncertainty and unpredictability of God's future. In the preceding verses, the disciples have asked Jesus, "What will be the sign of your coming and of the end of the age?" And today's passage is part of how Jesus responds to this question. And it's a long apocalyptic rant about signs and signals. And the key phrase in all of it is, "About that day and hour no one knows, neither the angels of heaven nor the Son, but only the Father." No one knows. An uncertain future. We humans don't really like uncertain futures. We try to tame them with insurance policies. We try to be prepared for any possibility. But the only certainty about the future is that God will be in it. And so we walk to Bethlehem. The Old Testament lesson for today from Isaiah also speaks about the future. What insights about the future does this prophet have for us? He wrote, "In the days to come, many people shall come and shall say, 'Come, let us go up to the mountain of the Lord, to the house of the God of Jacob.' And they shall beat their swords into plowshares. Nation shall not lift up sword against nation, neither shall they study war anymore." That's a hopeful future. Now, most of you probably know what a plow is, but for the sake of clarity, I will give you the definition. A plow is a farm implement used to break up soil. But do you know what a plowshare is? I am an ignorant 21st century city-dwelling preacher, and I had to look it up. I'd always sort of assumed that a plowshare was just a plow that a bunch of farmers shared, like a timeshare. But that's not it. A plowshare is quite simply the cutting blade of the plow. It is a blade. It is sharp. It's a blade, and in this vision of Isaiah's, it's a blade that used to be another kind of blade, a sword. But it has been remolded slightly and repurposed, refashioned for a new use. It was a sword that used to cut others, and now it cuts bramble and soil and fields. A plowshare in this vision is an instrument of violence that has been repurposed for peace. Those words about swords being turned into plowshares were uttered a long time ago, and so we wonder today just when exactly is Isaiah's vision of international harmony supposed to happen? I don't know. Uncertainty. But I do know that a world in which nations are still regularly rising, lifting up swords against each other, is a world in desperate need of God. And so, we walk to Bethlehem. A final thought for you today. The prophet Isaiah predicted that someday instruments of violence would be repurposed and given new meaning. Swords into plowshares. And while we haven't seen the fulfillment of that entire vision yet, Isaiah was right. This beautiful cross that I am wearing around my neck is a symbol that was once an instrument of violence, like a sword. The Roman Empire used crucifixion as a weapon of torture and death. But this symbol has been repurposed. This cross now symbolizes love. It symbolizes God's love for us, and that is a love so deep and so wide and so strong that God's own Son became one of us and eventually gave his life for us. So, for the next 24 days, we will watch and we will wait for God to arrive, for Jesus to arrive and once again bring his message of love to us. But I encourage you to not wait passively. Don't just sit there. Set out on a journey toward Bethlehem and meet him there. Together, let's journey through Advent. Let's journey together with the unwed pregnant teenager who became the mother of God. Let's journey through Advent toward the innkeeper who has the no vacancy light on and yet somehow finds a warm, dry shelter for a couple expecting their first child. Together, let's journey through Advent toward the barn that became an impromptu maternity ward. Together, let's journey through Advent towards the shepherds that became the sheep. And let's journey through Advent toward the baby that became the shepherd, the good shepherd. Let's walk to Bethlehem and toward our uncertain and yet God-filled future. Amen.